So today we're going to talk about the fact that Paige Bueckers and JuJu Watkins were hyped up in the beginning of the year, but they're not fulfilling their promise. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our channel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Rob.
So, hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next video. So I think everyone watching this probably already knows, but in the beginning of the year, Paige Bueckers and JuJu Watkins were the two co-favorites for Player of the Year. Hannah Doggle was third, but there was like a distance third, it seemed like, the way the press was talking. And I agreed with them. I thought it was a question of whether or not JuJu Watkins was going to improve enough to overcome Paige Bueckers, because I thought Paige Bueckers was a little bit better last year. She was more efficient than JuJu Watkins. So I thought that was, it was fair. But the inaccurate part was that some of the press were calling them both generational players and basically were saying they were as good or better than Caitlin Clark, or we're going to be better than Caitlin Clark, especially JuJu Watkins. She was called the Michael Jordan of basketball, and she had no flaws and all this stuff, which was far from true. And so also JuJu Watkins, on at least two occasions, someone said she was unequivocally the face of women's basketball, which wasn't even fair to Paige Bueckers, who's former Player of the Year and goes to UConn.
Right.
And so that wasn't even accurate. In fact, that wasn't fair to Hannah Doggle, who was first team All-American as a freshman yesterday, and the third person who's also could be Player of the Year. So the season has progressed, Rob, and as the season has progressed, it seems more and more likely that neither one of them are going to win Player of the Year, especially Paige Bueckers. But JuJu Watkins' numbers aren't great either, and she's only come up big in 1/2 out of 8 in the 4 biggest games she's played this year. So, Paige Bueckers giving a hard time because she hasn't been a serve enough and hasn't come up big, but neither is JuJu Watkins. The first half against Connecticut, she was phenomenal. Other than that, Rob, I think she's been pretty average in the other quarters that she played in her 4 biggest games of the year this year.
I think, Mark, even though this is where we disagree, JuJu Watkins, I think, is still in the running for Player of the Year, even though she has kind of dropped off a little. There are some other players.
Rob, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Define in the running. Like, if you had to say, if you had to vote for Player of the Year right now, who would you vote for?
What I mean by in the running is that, like you said, you were mentioning that they were beginning of the season that Watkins and Paige were the neck, kind of neck and neck fighting for that spot. But I think that Paige has dropped off definitely. So what I mean by in the running is that if we did the voting now, she definitely is still in there. She's still in there as far as I think she still could win it this year.
She could still win it. In fact, Las Vegas has her as the odds-on favorite still, which is I'm flabbergasted by, because Hannah Doggle, now one of them has them tied, but other sources have one has them tied at 165. And then Lauren Betts at 200. Another one has JuJu Watkins at -200 and Hannah Doggle at +150, which means she's 2/3 likely to win the award. And I have her, and then Lauren Betts is down the line at 1,600, so she's like third. And I'll be honest with you, Rob. I'll ask you that first. If you had a vote for the Player of the Year right now, not who you think is going to end up being the Player of the Year, but if you had a vote for Player of the Year right now, who would you vote for?
I'll probably pick JuJu Watkins.
Okay. So I completely disagree with that. I would vote for Hannah Doggle in a heartbeat. And I think that she will win unless there's a big turnaround in JuJu Watkins' play. And it's my understanding the voting takes place after the end of the regular season. So how they do in the NCAA tournament, because people keep saying that, is irrelevant. It's a regular season award, just like it is in the professional sports. So in my opinion, I would put JuJu Watkins 4th right now. And I'm a JuJu Watkins fan, and I would put Paige tied for 5th with maybe 6 to 8 other players.
And I think 4th?
I would put her 4th. Yeah, I have Lauren Betts 2nd, and I think if I pronounce her name right, Tanaya Latson is 3rd, who's the leading scorer in the country right now, who's not getting much love because she's way down 5th or 6th in Las Vegas odds, and she's also a very good defensive player, and she has a very efficient game compared to JuJu Watkins.
I don't think I'd put her over JuJu Watkins. I'm sorry. I
Well,
mean,
you
just
wouldn't,
because she's
well,
leading,
you
just
wouldn't
because
put
he's
any,
leading,
any of those three. You wouldn't put any of those three you just
just
said.
because he's leading scorer, just because he's leading scorer doesn't mean she's the player of the year.
She also has come up big in when they haven't played a tough schedule, but when they played better teams, she actually played better. She had bigger stats when she did. And so had Hannah Hidalgo and Lauren Betts. All three of these players, Rob, when they played against the best teams, the better teams, the marquee matchups, they all came up big. JuJu Watkins and Paige Bueckers have not come up big in the big matchups. They haven't played well. Their teams haven't won.
So have JuJu Watkins' stats gone down, or are they just
from last year?
Because, I mean, well, no, I'm not talking about last year.
Let's go JuJu Watkins' stats right now.
Yeah, let's do it right now. See how she's doing.
So last year, people thought of her as this unbelievable player when, in fact, she was a gunner. Her shooting percentage was poor last year, and people forget that. She shot 40% and 31.9% from threes. She was a great rebounder. She scored a lot of points, very good defender, but she had more turnovers than assists.
This year or last year?
This is last year.
Okay, we're talking about this year.
When you asked whether or not she improved, you just asked whether she improved. I'm getting to that because that was what you said. Did she play better than last year? And she is playing better than last year, even though she's averaging fewer points. I don't care about that because she's taking fewer shots and she's got more help.
You just said that you're putting a leading scorer ahead of her. You said
I get that, Rob. But I'm going to get to the shooting percentage, though. Okay, we'll get to that. So I don't care about the fact that her points average went down. I think she was taking too many shots last year because she had no help on her team. They added 2 players this year on her team, so she has help now. But her shooting percentage is still only 43% and only 32% from threes, almost the exact same thing as last year. And her assist to turnover ratio is just past 1. People gave Caitlin Clark a hard time about her turnovers, but her assist turnover ratio in college was 1.8. Way better.
Okay, how does she compare to the players you put above her?
All right, we're going to go over that. So let's start. I think we should start with Hannah Hidalgo because she's a co-favorite and also a second favorite, depending on what you believe. Hannah Hidalgo right now for this year is averaging 26 points, almost the same number of points, but she's shooting 50% from the field, not 40%, 50%. And her threes is 41.8, not 32%. She's shooting way better than her, Rob. And I think she's a better, more consistent defender. She leads the country in steals at 4. And she has 5.8 rebounds, not as many as JuJu Watkins, but for a 5.6 guard, that's phenomenal. And she has a similar assist to turnover ratio, to be fair, 3.9 to 3, just slightly over 1. But her shooting percentage is way higher, Rob, and I think she's a better consistent defender than JuJu Watkins, and she's come up big in the games. I can, not in good conscience, ever vote for JuJu Watkins over Hannah Hidalgo right now. Now, this could change. There's some games left. There's some big games left, too. Mm-hmm. But right now, Rob, the stats and what I've seen highly suggest to me that it would be unfair to vote for JuJu Watkins. It would be a mistake. It's wrong.
Okay, well, then you have Betts.
Betts, I always find it harder to compare when you got a center like that because the stats don't transfer over. But Betts has come up big in some games. As you know, she came up really big recently in some big games. She's averaging right now 20 points, almost 10 rebounds, 9.9, 2.9 assists, and she's got 2.9 blocks, and she's shooting 64% from the field. She doesn't take any three-point shots. And she's the key to the defense.
So she shoots close. Close to the basket. So her shots are mostly closer to the basket then.
I get that, but it's still 64%. Angel Reese plays close to the basket and she shoots 40%.
Well, no, Angel Reese is no comparison. She
I understand that. I'm just saying.
she sucks at shooting.
Again, I find it harder to compare stats when you front court with back court, but you got to do it because you got to vote for a player of the year somehow. So her free throw shooting is a weakness, 57.9%.
Ooh, that's brutal.
Yes.
57% free throws?
57.9, right, yeah.
Wow, that's horrible. That's right. Horrible. That is horrible.
I have her second, but she's an excellent defender, and that's her basic weakness right there. She can't hit the three. She doesn't take the three, and her free throw shooting is not very strong.
So the game. So I think coming up, Mark, we said with matchups. the coming up game between USC and UCLA will be
Huge.
I think, yeah, it's going to be huge. So, yeah.
But Rob, she also, and I don't try to put too much emphasis on like which team is number one or like in terms of rating the players, but she is the top player and the leader and the dominant force in the number one ranked undefeated UCLA Bruins. That goes for something. I don't want to overrate that, but that goes for something, Rob.
She is the Bill Walton and Lou Alcindor.
Okay, so anyways, in my opinion, given all of those factors, I would take her over JuJu Watkins right now. And we'll go to the third one. Now, Tenaya Latson isn't getting as much love as she belongs, but her stats are more impressive than you might think. Now, they play a slightly weaker schedule. I mean, Connecticut doesn't play that tough schedule either. Then I think that UCLA and USC play, but I'm putting her third, so that's okay. The two players ahead of her played for a tougher schedule. But she is leading the country in scoring at 26.2. She also has 4.7 rebounds and 4.8 assists and 2.4 steals. And she's shooting almost 48% from the field and 42% from threes and 81% at the free throw line. Those numbers are way better than JuJu Watkins in shooting percentages, Rob. And she's averaging the same number of points. And she's got better assist to turnover ratio, Rob. She's got a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. I'm sorry. Yeah, almost not quite 2. I'm sorry. Almost a 2-to-1.
Well, then how can you rank her? How can you rank her third? She should be over Betts and Hidalgo if she's that good.
Well, I think it's the defense of the Bets and in fact, how much, you got UCLA number one. She's also an excellent rebounder at 9.9. She's scoring 20 points. There's other factors. You could convince me she should be second. I'm just saying. Right now,
I'm just wondering why you've got her. I mean, like you said, why you have her so low.
I think because they play an easier schedule than UCLA and USC. And I think that right now, Lauren Betts is a force defensively underneath for UCLA. And I think that's the key to why their team is undefeated. And 64% shooting and stuff like that. You can convince me she should be second, but you can't convince me those numbers, looking at the numbers and looking at and I can go over some big games that she had. When they played against better teams, she played better. Not like JuJu Watkins and Paige Bueckers, who shrunk most of the time. She played better. So I think you have to count that as a factor when you're voting for a player, is how big they come up against better teams and in key games and highlight games. They don't have to play great every time, but they can't shrink. They should play better on a consistent basis.
We'll see. Like I said, for me, I mean, you got me. You have me. You asked me who I would vote for. I vote for JuJu, but like I said, Hidalgo is putting on a show this year. She's definitely. I mean, I wouldn't mind changing my mind to Hidalgo at all. I agree with you, but at this moment, I probably would pick Watson. Right. But like I said, I mean, we'll see. I mean, for me, the key game is going to be against UCLA. When they play
USC and UCLA, that'll be a key game. Because Lauren Betts is up there. She's like third in the Player of the Year odds right now.
Yeah, if she does well in that game, then I'll keep it going. But if she, like you said, shrinks and doesn't show up, then I'm going to be jumping on the Hidalgo bandwagon.
Okay, well, anyway, so Paige Bueckers, her numbers aren't bad. Here's a problem with Paige Bueckers. She was better her freshman year than she is right now. And she's less assertive, and we're going to do a video on this, Rob, and why she's not playing as well. But her coach is throwing her at the bus. That's not helping any.
That's. I mean, this is a preview of that. Definitely her coach.
So Paige Bueckers, Rob, she's only averaging 18.7. She averaged 20 as a freshman. But she's very efficient. Like, she's so efficient, she's afraid to take a bad shot. She's afraid to take over a game, afraid to kind of force a shot when they need it. Yeah. And I think that's what everybody's criticizing. And she hasn't played well in the big games. Yeah. But she does have 4.4 assists, only 1.3 turnovers, and she's shooting 53% and 41% from threes, which is really good. But she just hasn't come up big in big moments. And I think that's what people are criticizing her for.
I think she can't wait to get out of that Connecticut situation. I think she'll shine after that. I think she'll do much better.
You can see on the screen that her numbers aren't even as good as her freshman year for the most part. A little bit better shooting percentage. Her three-point shooting was 46% as a freshman. She averaged more points. She averaged more rebounds. She averaged more assists. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. She was better as a freshman than she ever has been then. We know she's had 2 injuries. She missed a bunch of games in the middle of the year in 21, 22 when she hurt her knee, and then she had the ACL and missed the entire 22, 23 season. But she's almost 2 years removed from that. You know, I know it's tough coming back from an ACL. So compare that with Hannah Hidalgo if you want to vote for Player of the Year. Here's Hannah Hidalgo's stats for those who are interested. And they're clearly better than Paige Bueckers. So you want to look at them. Here's Lauren Betts' numbers here. And she's improved a lot since last year. You got to look at that. She's gone up from 14.9 points to 20.2 points, and she's still shooting the same thing. But I think it's her defense has been the key. And here's Denia Lotson's stats for those that are interested. Shooting, she's improved a lot since last year. So, anyways, those are the stats. I think that Paige Bueckers is going to be lucky to make first team All-American this year, Rob, because I got her like tied for 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, stats-wise, she probably deserves to be first team All-American if you look at the stats. But other people like Flajay Johnson has similar stats to her, Olivia Miles. I got a whole list of players who you could consider. Anisha Morrow, Georgia Amore, Kiki Rice, Haley Van Lith. You know, all those players have similar stats or played almost as well in some ways.
Mark Ricketts bigger.
Sarah Strong, right on her team there, maybe the best player on her team. She might make first team All-American instead of Paige. Right. So there's a lot. There's a lot of players that could get votes over her.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that Strong is probably playing better than she is.
Right, so she might not make first team All-American, which would look really bad when she was co-favorite of the year to win Player of the Year. It doesn't look like UConn's going to win the championship this year. It just doesn't look that way. They were favored, second favorite when the season started, and I agreed with that. But right now, I don't agree with it, and I don't think they're going to win the championship. I can't see them going through the hole. I will say Paige Bueckers was playing well in the NCAA tournament every game. She was on a run until they came against Iowa, and then she had like an average game, and they lost to Caitlin Clark's Iowa team. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year. But again, it's my understanding all the voting is done at the end of the regular season and before the start of the NCAA tournament. I'm not even sure if they include the conference championships before they vote. I'll have to research that.
All right.
But anyway.
So we'll see.
Those are it. Rob's voting for JuJu Watkins, but I think I swayed him a little bit towards Hannah after he saw the stats more. Let us know what you think. Who would you vote for Player of the Year? In fact, down below, tell us your top 5 in order. Who you think would be Player of the Year and you'd be first team All-American? And do you think that the media did a disservice to JuJu Watkins and Paige Bueckers and put so much pressure on them?
Yeah.
Do the impossible, which was basically duplicate what Caitlin Clark has done the last 2 years, which those were 2 of the best years in the history of women's college basketball. They weren't just good years. They were great years.
You're right.
They really were. Her sophomore year, she didn't shoot that well, but her sophomore, junior, and senior year, she led the nation in scoring and assists, and then shot really well and had better assist to turnover ratio her junior and senior year. And she just became a better passer and scorer her junior, senior. She just became a great, great player. And it's not easy to duplicate. Just because some player's a great player doesn't mean they're going to be just as good as some other great player.
Right. I know. Yeah.
And just so we don't look back at this 15 years ago, I'm not saying JuJu Watkins won't be the best player of all time in college or in the WNBA, but I think it's not likely at this point. Because she's the second best sophomore right now in her class. But because of her size and her athletic ability, she has the potential to be the best player of all these players that we're talking about, except for Caitlin Clark, to be the best player in the WNBA. So I want to put that on record before someone attacks me about, underrating JuJu Watkins. I have to go with what she's performing at right now.
Right.
All
right.
Anyway. All right. So that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next video and make Rob happy. And if you like this video, hit the like button. I think Paige Bueckers and JuJu Watkins fans may not like it, but I'm just trying to be honest about it and objective and be fair and not overrate them just because they're being hyped up by certain members of the media.
Right.
And hey, and if you want, you can join our live show. It's every Monday, 6 to 8 Eastern time, except for major holidays. And you can call in for the show, so it's pretty cool. If you want to donate to the channel, you can with super chats and super thanks down below, and there's a link to PayPal. And we'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.